Maru, GuMiho, Cure, Classic.
Welcome back to the GSL Code S. It's time to eliminate our first player in the round of 8. This is GuMiho versus Classic, and I actually don't know who's the favorite here. I really couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I think this is probably about as 50-50 as it's going to get so far here today. We have a lot of favorites. I mean, Maru and Cure seem to be a step above everybody else right now, but Classic, one of the best Protoss players in the world, on the up and up right now in the GSL in 2023, but GuMiho, I mean, a GSL champion, someone that kind of plays his own style, has his own approach, his own outlook.
Yeah, and you know, whoever does actually win this, we're going to find out soon, of course, but it's going to be Maru waiting to take that player on there in the in a best of 3 again. So we know that Maru pretty much crushed GuMiho. I don't know how Maru vs. Classic's going to look. The thing is, Maru just seems so strong. I mean, he always looks strong, but even today, I'm like, oh man. It's you know, even the game against Classic, I think Maru plays that just a little bit differently, and he can actually win. So tough group here for these two guys going at it, but we can only take this one best of 3 at a time. So we're going to go into GuMiho versus Classic now. It's going to be on Ancient Cistern for map 1, Royal Blood for map 2, and Grezvin for map 3, if we're lucky enough to get that far. We did see the towel on camera.
Oh, the towel, yeah.
The palms are still sweaty.
Oh, look, you can see on the left. Is that an air purifier? What's going on?
It's his mom's spaghetti.
It's his mom's spaghetti. He keeps it in a big bin. It's like the ultimate Tupperware container.
Yeah, there is a box. That's a big package you got back there. All right, guys, we're ready. Let's go into this best of 3 and eliminate one of these players.
GuMiho.
I think GuMiho's room is the one that I'm most interested in, just because. What is he hiding?
Yeah, what's back there, man?
You know, well, what's secrets?
Classic.
Nobody else is doing that. Look at this guy.
I feel like
he's bearing it all for us.
I know. Yeah, it's like no posters, man. Not a calendar on the wall. Nothing.
Gamers in general, myself included, we're not very good at interior design.
Yeah, I've always liked decorating a room. I've always enjoyed doing that.
I like it. I'm just not good at it.
Yeah. Well, I guess the truth is, when you're really into the game, you're just like, well, I'm just here playing games. Like, that's what I'm doing. I'm not here to like just kind of be in the room itself. And so, I guess the decorating does come a little bit later. A Classic is going to come out with this probe and fish around and look and see if there's going to be anything proxied at all. This is always great for a moment like this with GuMiho, where he isn't proxying anything at all. And so the probe just doesn't really get any intel at all.
Interesting change from the previous series. I wonder if this is something specific to GuMiho that he's doing, because if I remember in Group D, he was also scouting quite proactively with his probes, but you know, the first match that he played today, it was very little probe scouting, I think, if any, against Cure. So this time, Classic does not want to get caught off guard, whether that's because it's GuMiho or because he just lost to a proxy match, or a proxy base, remains to be seen. And back at home, just going to throw it on that Nexus, get a cyberdynamic score up and going. Going to be a high ground CC here for GuMiho. So Classic actually doesn't have complete confirmation on this. Might cause him to play a little bit more safely. And yeah, you see another probe coming out, the one that built the Nexus back at the Natural Expansion, now looking for more proxies because he didn't see that high ground command center.
Yeah, he baited him. Pretty nicely done. And we saw this actually, I think, in one of the games versus Maru, although we didn't have the same reaction that Classic had, but basically to just, you know, seal yourself off, but actually make a command center and sort of generate some ambiguity about what's going on. And you know, Classic, you know, one of the issues or features with almost all the StarCraft 2 maps we have is that you can proxy anywhere. It's one of the big differences between map design and StarCraft 1 and StarCraft 2. StarCraft 1, a lot of times you can only proxy in a couple locations. And it kind of balances out because you end up proxying earlier, even though you have less workers, you know? So it's, you know, if they try to scout right away, it's also a big sacrifice for them. But, yeah, I mean, he still hasn't seen anything. So at this point in time, Classic still doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, I can see in the top left of the mini-map, he's just setting his first adept around trying to find a proxy. And that means that he's only going to have one adept back at home to defend this little 3 Marine push, which might be able to get a little bit of damage done here.
Yeah, this is a funny little maneuver here.
Yeah, this is not the attack that you generally see. Oh, nice micro there by Classic. He knows that, you know, it's a little bit more than 2 shots to actually kill a Marine, so the probes just come in and tase him down to finish it off.
We don't really get to ever play-by-play that in GSL, where it's like, well, these are 2 units, let's see how they interact.
No, that's perfect micro there by Classic. That's, yeah, something you don't get to see that often because it's a really rare interaction. It's one of the reasons why way back in the day when I was playing Adept builds against Terran, I don't know if you remember when they nerfed the damage that I think they nerfed the damage like Adepts did to light units by like 1 or something, so they would no longer 2-shot SEVs and 2-shot Marines because it was too overpowered, and so I would just like build a forge with it. Get +1 and then go in with like all my Adepts, and it's like, all right, patch this.
Yeah, deal with this.
Good times.
So we're gonna have that command center landed now, and you know, I mean, the truth is it does start the second base a little bit later. This build is a little bit weirder. I don't know if Classic is truly hurting. He does have a 10 worker supply lead right now. Classic did go for some Phoenixes. It does now have that Robo out, not a Colossus right away, an Immortal first. And he's just going to come through here and scout, and he's going to see that, you know, nothing too crazy so far.
Double Cyclone. And Robotic Spay into third base probably will be the plan here for Classic. This is reminiscent of what he did a lot in Group D, what quite a few Protoss players in Korea in general have been doing in this matchup so far. So I know that in Europe, 3-gate and 4-gate Blink still quite popular, but here in Korea, this tends to be the way it goes, for better or for worse.
And so we're probably going to have Protoss get the third base up a little bit sooner now. It is going to be that add-on over there connecting to the starports. We're going to start to have medevacs come into play here. Stim's done. I don't know if Terran's going to try to move out just yet or not. But we're in a very developmental phase here for both sides. I don't think there's any real incentive to try to come out and strike the opponent.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I like this position for Classic a lot more than GuMiho, because it feels like GuMiho doesn't really have any avenues of getting solid harassment done. So that worker differential for Classic, not only with Chrono Boost, but also with his third Nexus being completed, much faster than GuMiho's third command center is going to be, which I'm looking at the minimap, I don't even think it started. He should have a big worker lead, and there's no siege tanks with this push. It's just bio. So if Classic, with this sentry, he should have a couple of force fields. He should probably have a shield battery at his third base and by his natural expansion as well. If he's able to take a good fight with a Colossus against a mostly Marine army with 1 Cyclone and maybe a handful of Marauders, things could start to snowball his way. And yes, the Observer does get sniped, but he got a full scout on not only the army position there for GuMiho, but also the composition. And smart play now. You know, after an Observer dies or any other unit dies, but Classic's so good with this probe, actually.
Dude, for a second, I'm so dumb. I saw the scan on the medevacs. I'm like, oh, Classic scanned the medevacs. and then as I did, I go, what am I talking about? It was like this moment, this brief lapse in my brain where I'm like, I don't even know what's going on right now.
All right, so even though that probe spotted this is actually a lot of probes going down here in the main base, and it's going to be hard for these units to get out with 5 Phoenix on the field in total, and you see the Marines trying to zone them away to the best of their ability, but keep in mind the Cyclone's also getting damage done now in the natural. And these Marines were able to thread the needle. They're going to be able to deploy down here outside the natural expansion. That means none of these medevacs are going to fall yet. At the third base for Classic, Stalkers are also going down, so I mean, it's a lot of economic damage.
He doesn't even know about this attack yet.
Oh, no.
He might actually have to tap out. That may be fatal damage.
I don't think he's going to tap out. His army is very strong, but, I mean, he just got pulled apart right there. GuMiho attacked from all these different angles, and in total, 27 probes are going to go down. And
that was a brutal engage.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah. You would think that after the probe spots the medevacs coming into the main base that, you know, maybe you'll go with a recall, and then you also have the Phoenixes coming into the main. You can defend that way, but, you know, perhaps the energy wasn't there, or perhaps Classic just wasn't quick enough to be able to intercept. And so now the onus is kind of on Classic to apply some pressure back on GuMiho. Classic does have the army supply lead, something we don't often see in PvT, and this is a nice way to start. 9 SCVs already going down. Let's see if he can get more.
Okay, the push is going to come down now. He needs to try to start to swing this. But again, an overextension could be fatal as well.
It's a big army here for Classic. Marauders stimming forward, going to snipe down the Immortal, but this might be too much Protoss army tasteless. Yes, his economy back at home, it's not that great, but This is a powerful force here outside the natural expansion now with the Warp Prism coming in.
And you know, the way the buildings are set up here with the barracks, this is actually kind of uncomfortable for the Terran to try to defend. He basically has created these narrow corridors that he can't actually get out of.
If I'm Classic and I'm seeing this, I'm warping in some sentries right now because I feel like the big bust out here for GuMiho might involve some SCVs being pulled.
Now the tank is going to be the one saving grace of what the Terran has for the time being, but there's a disruptor being made, and he could start to try to slowly traffic this stuff in here and basically start to take some pot shots from the outside.
Liking Classic's position now, man. He really needed to get damage done, and he was able to do it. Catching workers transferring from the third base to the natural, forcing the liftoff, winning that fight outside the second expo here of GuMiho, and now Classic, not only does he have the worker lead, but he's still head and head with Army, 54-51.
So, I mean, Terran is still alive, still okay. The tank is far back enough, you can't really force your way in there. I think this is a wise call. He's going to back up. I think he's realizing like he's not going to get much more out of here. And again, Terran is still on 2 bases. It looks like the command center is going to be floated back to the 3rd, but Classic himself, he takes a 4th.
Yep, 4th base underway here for Classic. More gateways just powering up back at home. There is a medevac drop on its way to the main base. There is no pylon here at the top left of the main, so all Marines will be able to deploy and then stim. So this should be a handful of probes going down, but man, it's fast reaction there by Classic, minimizing the damage done here. Units coming back to intercept. There isn't a lot more happening on the map, so this should be cleaned up with ease.
Yeah, and you know, it did pull the Protoss back. It did get 5 probes, but you got to ask yourself, like, what did this really get done long term here? I feel like GuMiho may be in a little bit of trouble. Classic really on the road to recovery here after nearly getting killed, to be frank, with the drops and the tactics coming from GuMiho. Now we've got a massive push, and it looks like a very complete Protoss army. Charge is about to finish, +1 is about to finish. I think that he might even want to try to take the Terran army on head first.
I think you should. The Viking count isn't that high just yet, only at 5. And oh, disruptor shot coming in! Big one gets 4 or 5 Marauders. That's going to be the go sign here for Classic as he starts to breach this position. EMP does go off on the Phoenixes. Their shields are gone, but they've already taken down 1 Viking. And with more Warpins coming in, Tasteless, I'm wondering if Classic might just be able to end this game.
Yeah, the SCVs are going to be pulled. They may actually be used to try to defend. And you know, it's always a little bit clunky trying to get in here with the Zealots, because the Zealots will just like dive onto the command center, so he's going to pull away. Just having the SCVs not mine is very good. Let's not forget that that 4th base for Protoss is mining as well. And he's going to come in here with another disruptor. Now, I don't know how easy it is to get up this narrow area, but apparently Classic thinks it's not that bad. So he's going to come through here right now. A lot of Zealots just diving right on top of this infantry. The Colossi still in a set of 3, just melting everything. GG. Classic takes game 1.
Wow.
And I gotta say, man, he looked very good back there, especially when you consider what damage he took earlier on there from GuMiho.
Yeah, that was very nice recovery there from Classic. GuMiho effectively traded all of that army supply there in the mid game for a load of probes. I think almost 30 probes went down. It was something like 27 or 28. And so Classic, if he sat back at home and tried to re-macro out of that, he's a dead man. He has to get something done. But during all of that harassment, keep in mind, he was able to retain his army. And behind all of it, you know, he was pumping Colossi. GuMiho was on a Marine-heavy composition for a very long time, had very few siege tanks because he was so invested in that push. And as a result, yes, he was able to hamper and hamstring the economy there for Classic. But once Classic pushed across the map, GuMiho was kind of out of answers. And especially with the SimCity there, the natural expansion, it was so hard for him to get out of his base and defend. And Classic just able to ride that position into a win. But, I mean, that's easier said than done. I mean, when you're there in the moment, it's very difficult to make those accurate calls and truly understand what the game state is and that you can leverage this one advantage that you do have to translate it into a win. Because if he hadn't done that, I mean, he would have been dead to rights.
Game 2, I mean, you know, I think GuMiho, he needs to make sure that he can get the damage done, but then not leave a big wide opening there.
Yeah.
Because once we saw those Colossi moving out, it's like, oh, well, yeah, what happens if he does just counterattack you? So we're going to go to Royal Blood. Again, the loser is facing elimination. We'll see if GuMiho can tie this up 1-1 and bring us to game 3, or if Classic closes us out. We're going to go right into our final best of 3 versus Maru. Our game is now loading up in what has been, by the way, so far an incredible day of StarCraft 2 games here in the round of 8. Group A, GSL Code S.
GuMiho.
It's becoming less and less opaque as time passes. I don't know why that is.
Classic.
Like, are you telling me he's not playing on top of a building in a purple city?
What time is it right now? I wonder. Oh, 8:34. I was gonna say, I wonder if he has like a window open and the sun is setting, and so like the light on like the green screen or something behind him. I don't know, but
could be. Either that, or he's on top of a purple city and he's got a bad graphics card that is trying to make it look like he's in a normal Korean, office room or bedroom. Didn't think about that, did you?
I didn't know. What else is he simulating? Tasteless?
They're all playing on top of in purple cities. Have you not been in Seoul? Everything's purple. All right.
I've been liking what I've been seeing from Classic so far. I mean, that first series against Kira was really brutal, but it felt like in game number 1 he had all of the right pieces to deal with the attack that GuMiho threw at him, and he just got outpositioned, and GuMiho came in the main base with a dropship, and the natural expansion with a cyclone, and then later in the third base with another follow-up attack at Bio, and Classic got picked apart, and he was still able to get a win. So I wonder if he can kind of navigate the game in a similar way if it does decide to go that way and GuMiho opts for a similar strategy. I think Classic's defense can be even stronger, and if Classic's defense is even stronger, it should be him translating that into a win, right? I mean, he played so well in game number 1 despite all of those hiccups.
Yeah, I also think, like, let's say that he wins here and goes up against Maru. I do think that Maru's style is very different from what Kira had, too. Just thinking about, like, a best of 3 ahead. With these two, I don't know, Classic he did seem weak for a little bit on the 3 bases. I mean, we see a lot of Terrans set up, and, there's a lot of different types of attacks you can have on a 3-base Protoss, right? But, I mean, the fact that he was, robust enough to basically get knocked around and then still swing back and basically take control of the game, that's impressive.
All right, Reaper going to try and find an entry point here into the main base. Not looking to sack it for scouting, so instead just going to pull back it.
He chest bumped him out of the base. I saw that, man. Some bouncer moves right there. One thing with GuMiho's games is he creates a lot of chaos, but he also creates a lot of instability on his end of stuff. Like, I mean, I'm looking at that last game, and I can't help but think about that game where he tried to push Maru's main, and Maru just, like, went around and killed him. He's like, no, you can't do that. That's actually not how this works.
The chaos often comes at a cost, and that cost is GuMiho sometimes cutting corners. And also keep in mind that GuMiho usually behind a lot of these aggressive plays, not all the time, but often, he will back it up with greed. He'll go for command centers a lot faster than other players. You see this most often in his TVZ.
Yeah.
But also he'll do it in TBT and TBP to some extent. So there is some kind of a tightrope walk for GuMiho when he's trying to play his style in terms of really dishing out these creative builds. And I think it actually saw in the production tab, was that Cloak Banshee coming in?
Yeah.
Okay, so GuMiho mixing it up again. But oftentimes he'll do strategies like this where it's truly designed to throw a wrench in your opponent's game plan and cause problems for them to create and also keep them on their side of the map. And he tries to leverage that into him being able to get away with greed back at home. And hopefully by the time that his opponent is stabilized from whatever attack it is that he's thrown his way, finally GuMiho is firing on all cylinders. His economy is up, he's pumping units, and he's a force to be reckoned with. But sometimes it doesn't go his way like it did right there in game number 1, where Classic walks across the map and just kills him.
GuMiho, I feel like, he's like a Death Star. Like, it's like, that's no moon. That's GuMiho's builds. But then you're like, but there's also a hole inside the ship where you can fly an X-Wing into, and you fire one shot, and it will blow the entire planet-sized spaceship up. I do feel like there's a little bit of that with his play where, like, it looks great, but if we go back, we're like, oh, no, you don't have any turrets. You have nothing defending your main.
It's a very apt analogy, yeah.
Oh.
All right.
I'm confused. Why did he come back? Oh,
so the
'cause there's a
Widowmine,
Widowmine
yeah,
here too.
yeah, the Widowmine dropped off to the left of the assimilator and then walked down into the natural expansion, and then this guy got caught in the middle. I mean, this kind of is what happens if you go for a Widowmine drop without an armory against a Phoenix opening like this. Is the Phoenixes, they're just so good at dealing with it.
It's what the opening is meant to completely shut down.
Yeah, the Phoenix opening by design is supposed to be best against high-tech builds. Like if you have Banshees coming in, if you're able to spot it, say you have an Oracle, it's very good against that because obviously the Banshee can't escape. Or it's good at intercepting medevac drops with Hellions or Marines, because Hellions, you just pick them up one at a time. Medevac drops, you can kill those. It's very good at dealing with these situations, but right now, it looks like GuMiho, actually with this push, I don't think he's trying to commit and stop this base.
Well, he's going to have to commit here, and I mean, that, once I saw that siege, I'm like, this is not going to end well.
Yeah, but in the main base right now of Classic is what GuMiho is trying to set up for, which is the Cloak Banshee, and there is still no detection. So now probes are going to start to fall, and GuMiho, he was always intending to try and create this problem, but there is an observer here in the natural expansion, so Classic seems like he's in good position for this. I mean, 5 SCVs, 5 probes, excuse me, will go down, but not only did Classic catch that army that was supposed to distract from this and then retreat, but also he kills the Banshee, losing only 5 probes while getting a 3rd base up. I mean, this is an ideal situation for Classic right now.
Yeah, I mean, Classic it's everything's working. I think the bigger disaster, by the way, this game might mirror the other one.
It might.
In a lot, because it's like, well, here we go again. He's shut everything down. Now he's going to come back out. When we saw the tank siege up there, I thought, oh, no, yeah, you're in over your head now.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way that you can just do this. By the way, killing the SCV on the command center, that's annoying too. Banshee going to come back. We have a lot more gateways coming down. We do have Thermal Lance coming and Colossi coming, so we're going to get kind of back to where we were at before, with the Protoss on a 3rd base, Terran boxed in and having to turtle, while the Protoss can basically, have free reign of the map.
Yeah, this has been Classic's go-to build in PvT so far here in GSL, and it's got him to the round of 8. It's got him 1 map win away from facing Maru in the decider match to decide who is going to go to the semifinals and the finals here at the GSL Code S. And I like the way that he's mixing it up a little bit too. I mean, he went for slightly later Twilight Council and Forge here, and he's opting not to go for Blink, but instead to go for Charge, as our observer now highlights. And I think that, coupled with the Templar Archives, which just got thrown down there on the left, all these gateways, is Classic wanting to take this advantage that he's been able to manifest and then turn it into a death-crushing blow. I mean, I think he's going to move across the map with a ton of Charge Zealots, potentially Archons. The Colossus count's already very high, and it could be difficult for GuMiho to deal with. And also, if GuMiho decides to just push across the map on his own, keep in mind that the army that Classic is building is just going to be so powerful that he might get overrun, even on the aggressive side.
Now, it just seems to me like that 3rd command center, that's going to be such a enticing spot to try to hit.
Absolutely.
No tanks there. Not even a lot of tanks in this game in general, by the way.
Yeah,
but
look at this. 2 tanks, 6 Marauders, and 11 Marines is all that GuMiho has been able to muster.
It just doesn't seem to me like Terran has a very well-anchored position. And we already saw this earlier where it's like, well, you can try to do damage, but if you don't kill, like, the Colossi off, the Immortal off, anything that's basically not a Stalker or a Zealot, like, as that, accumulates, you have a much easier time just sort of engaging them. And with tank counts this low too, you can just run in and pick the tanks up. Even if they're gonna shoot the Phoenixes down, it's like, well, you're kind of hiccuping all the core stuff that allows you to hold this. So, look, I don't see Classic attacking now, but he's going up to 5 bases. I think that coming up here, GuMiho might have to start to be the active one on the map, because otherwise I think it's going to be just too tempting to try to kind of wrecking ball the position that Terran's in.
And Classic now is just fully filling out his tech tree. He's got 2 Forge pumping. He's getting +2 ground weapons, +1 armor. Disruptors are underway. A 2nd Robo is underway. He's taking his 5th base. And hey, this is what that early defense allows him to do. Keep in mind everything that GuMiho invested earlier in this game. He went for the double medevac drop with 2 Widowmines, which got almost nothing done. He went for Cloak Banshees. He made 2 of them. They got, in total, I think, 6 probes. He tried going with a small push to allow to give space for that harassment to do more damage, and it got stomped.
Right.
So not only has he invested a ton of resources in harassment that never came to fruition, but he just hasn't really been able to keep up with the macro of Classic behind it. And so now it kind of feels like Classic just completely powering up here, and I love this play right now coming in with these 3 Phoenixes. Will be able to not only lift up that Cyclone, but also this turret though, and 2 Vikings. Never mind, this is not going to get anything
Yeah,
done.
well,
a little ahead of
3
myself.
Zealots. We'll see what he gets done with that, but he's going to attack at the front anyways.
No Warp Prism here, so I think just a little bit of posturing for Classic.
Maybe he'll delay Cloak.
Imagine the
Maybe that's what it would be.
goes down.
We've had some games where it's like this just goes unnoticed, but we have a lot more Robos here. We've got a lot more bases. I do feel like, you know, this is one of these moments where the Protoss can just run away with the game.
He's going up to 4 Robos?
Yeah, yeah.
4 Robos?
Well, I guess when you think about it, you know, as long as you never lose out on, you know, the accumulated Robo units, namely the Colossi and the Immortals, you're probably not going to die, right? Like, a lot of these games we see, like, 3 Colossi get killed off, and then Protoss tries to hang on with, like, you know, some other units. It kind of barely doesn't do it. But I guess the idea is the moment that you drop anything, you just fill that right back in.
Yeah, maybe he's anticipating a situation where he reaches max and gets a big bank before the engagement, and then he's able to remax on like 2 Colossi and 2 Disruptor. But yeah, 4 Robos is something that I don't know if I've ever seen someone.
I feel like I haven't cast a game with 4 Robos.
Make 4 Robos. He's making 3 Disruptors at a time now. So like, he's really pumping. These Zealots were just going to try and come in for some harassment, but do get caught in the middle of the map. And you know, to GuMiho's credit, he has been able to bounce back. He is max now. He hasn't suffered any damage up to this point. Worthy of note. And seeing a large Protoss army over there in the middle of the map will give him the confidence to move over here and potentially snipe this base. Yeah, it's just going to get evacuated here by Classic as the Zealot run by gets shut down, and Classic also not really able to breach this forward position here. He is going to try and shoo away the 4th base, but oh no, oh my goodness, never mind. For a second I thought the Disruptors were going to get caught, but actually it's the Disruptors that catch the bio. We just barely missed that shot, but the blood on the ground speaks for itself.
Is there no observer with this army for the Protoss? I feel like I've watched him eat so many mine hits.
There might not be. I know there are observers on the map. There is one at least, but I'm not sure exactly where it is. But man, that kind of turned on its head. That bio ball just got clobbered by Disruptors there back at the natural expansion of Classic.
I mean, the thing is, I mean, how is GuMiho going to win this game? I mean, he's just stuck on 3 bases with an army he can't really, Classic's army he can't really engage with without the risk being too high. And he could just keep doing these drops like this. He's got enough supply. He can bring some more in. He's just going to keep having these plays.
Yeah, more Disruptor shots come in. Able to take care of the only 2 remaining siege tanks in this game, and just watching the supply stay constant at 200 right now for Classic, just almost permanently maxed, and the bank is just getting huge. He's consuming the map, tearing on only 3 bases. I feel like eventually Classic is just going to come in, and even if he doesn't have the best engagement, as long as he trades, you know, 70-30, the remax is going to be enough that he's just going to obliterate this. I mean, to add insult to injury, these DTs coming in and further hampering the economy, and oh no, another command center trying to land but getting deflected.
You know, and the other thing too is, like, look at the minerals and gas spike up here for Classic. Classic can attack in, and with the Warp Prism, literally just remax with all the money and gas he has.
He has a ton of gateways back at home too.
I almost feel like he's being too cautious here, but because he knows better. You know, I think he could actually just run into the main right now. Now he's going to come in.
Yep, 2 different sides right now for GuMiho as he's trying to get a flank set up. Disruptor shots will go off. One has a big connection there on the top side, and this Protoss army is just absolutely massive. Yes, GuMiho will be able to get a favorable trade in that he's cleaning up the Colossi, and most of the ground units get dispatched, but Classic has a 4.5k res bank, or at least he did before the remax started. GuMiho right now is sitting 136 pop with only gas, really, to his name. 50 workers in total right now for GuMiho as this DT run by gets a lot of damage done, and I think these 4 robotics are going to pump out the next round of units, and then we're just going to go.
I think so. I mean, I think you trade out that supply.
It's going up to 12 Disruptors.
Yeah, and at this point in time, you just go, okay, round 2, ding the bell, go in. And again, it's a 3-base Terran to, like, a Protoss that is getting so much of the map. the entire top of the map. Double the bases, double the income, literally.
Tasteless, he's about to have almost as many disruptors as GuMiho has Marines.
Yeah.
It's going to be 12 disruptors to
It's going to be
Marines.
the atom bomb of disruptors. Like,
this is the real nuke. This is the Protoss nuke.
yeah, this is the
now.
Protoss nuke.
Is this army that Classic
Look,
has assembled?
He could basically let the cooldowns reset forever. It's like it's going to be so hard to ever actually get into any of these positions over here. He may want to actually attack. Oh, he's going to actually pull away.
I mean, this game, I would love to hype it up, but we're watching GuMiho bleed out here, more or less.
We really are,
as
yeah. It's
Classic with a 4K res bank up to 11 disruptors now. That's going to be it. GG is called. Classic will move on to face Maru in the final match to decide who's going to go to the offline semifinals and finals.
GuMiho, you could see the emotion, man. Covered his face. They're so frustrated. But, you know, at the end of the day, I mean, Classic is the better player. There's no denying it. Just a very good handling on, I think, one of the more rocky parts of the matchup, which is when you're on that third base, you're trying to get that tech out. Classic knows how to hang on, and then he knows exactly how to just set up and say, okay, I'm going to make you fight for your third. I'm going to go up to my fifth and eventually my sixth. And I look forward to the Maru Classic matchup. I do feel like Maru's still probably a little favored here, but let's see, man. Maybe we do get that Protoss moving on.
It would be good to see it. But also, I mean, Maru chasing GSL, another great storyline.
Yeah.
I would love to have that happen too. I mean, really, no losers here, right? We're getting ready for the semifinals. It's been a great day of StarCraft so far.
Yes.
I feel like it's only going to get better.
Yeah. Exciting final match here. As only Cure has advanced now to the round of 4, kind of a, I guess, not so surprising when we see how he's played. It's kind of a reminder of really where he's at, even beating Maru to get this far, making Maru fight for that last spot here in Group A. But Classic, I mean, he looks good. I guess the question is going to be, can Classic hang on to those jabs, those attacks in the early mid-game, and then can he try to dominate in the late game?
Yeah, because I feel like Maru's going to have a lot more tricks up his sleeve than GuMiho did in that series. And guys, we're going to go to a short break. When we get back, the final match of the round of 8 Group A. You don't want to miss it. We'll see you soon.